Yeah, well, not this side.
Well, there's a check on it, so...
No, check is going on this one.
Oh. Why is the oil not knowing to wear Techeiles today? You know, in law, they call that a loaded question. They say someone, a lawyer gets up and he asks the man, tell me when is the most recent time that you beat your wife? There's a certain assumption that's thrown across and nobody even questions it. And the question is, when did it happen last? The person is not sharply on the ball, so he would say, I don't remember, or something like that. So immediately it's Dos Faldin. He was might.
Where did you go about the Indian?
What?
Where did you speak about the Indian?
So, which Indian? What? Well, that's I'm speaking about this. You're saying, why is the oil not noyeg to wear Techeiles today? It's a loaded question. Why? Because it assumes that the oil is not noyeg. It assumes this. So you can't ask a question with a certain assumption that has to be proven. First, prove the assumption. Maybe people have two sets of tzitzis. The Indian of Techeiles is, was very controversial for the last 130, 140 years. There were people who were pushing very hard to wear to wear Techeiles. There's Ziner Rebbe, who has a tremendous Talmid Chacham. He had a method of extracting the color from the cuttlefish, and he held that that's a good Techeiles. There were others who were choiled on it, and they said that the Iker color there comes from the dyes that were added to the Techeiles. So because of that, this color is not Techeiles, but it's perhaps the dye coming from the cuttlefish made it stronger, made it more fast, color fast. That means that the dye doesn't fade away and it doesn't. But most of the olim didn't accept it. Then there were the others who said that you have to have a Mesorah, and without a Mesorah we don't know whether it's Techeiles or not. As the time went by, and there was Sforim written against the Techeiles and Sforim written for the Techeiles, but it didn't spread out throughout the world. Only the Ziner Rebbe's Enekolach and from Hasidim, there weren't that many, wore Techeiles. Over here, next door, we had for many years, the first years in Ferndale, there was the Ziner Rebbe, Zeche Sadik Lavrochi was, and he wore Techeiles, and others did, but it didn't go at all. Later there was a big controversy. Herzog wrote a whole countries and bringing Grayas that Techeiles was not the good Techeiles. They had another kind of Techeiles. That too didn't get many adherents. Recently, about 25, 30 years ago, there was another Techeiles. There's a snail, that goes in the water, a water-based snail, that has like a little bubble of liquid in it, which makes a very strong dye. Although the dye there, gave out purple wool, but not blue wool. Again, nothing really came of it until the two things happened. One thing that happened was that someone discovered accidentally that if you leave a wool that's dyed with this Techeiles out in the sun, it becomes a rich, perfect blue. And in fact, it can be shown that this dye that comes from that creature, that sea creature, is both the source for Techeiles and argoma. Whereas if it's put in the sun, so then it becomes blue, and if it's left without putting in the sun, after a while it becomes fast, it doesn't change any longer. So it becomes, it just remains purple. And it could be the source of the two colors that we find mentioned so often in the Torah. Techeiles argoma, which is not, nobody knew how to make it. And a lot of Mamor Chazal seem to come to light with this new Techeiles. It needed some help from chemicals to make it fast and so on. So it says Noisin by Samonin. But B'derech Klal, the color is completely from the dye. And all the different Mamor Chazal dealing with that Techeiles, you could be easily answered. I'm not going to go through them one by one because that'll take a long time. But what happened more recently, about 20 years ago, is that someone discovered huge caches, in other words, a tremendous amount of these shells from this sea snail, the murex, which were put together in certain areas, a few areas, which showed pretty convincingly that there were factories, collections of these things. People just don't all of a sudden decide to make a collection of snails' shells unless they did something with it. There was some industrial purpose. If somebody makes a collection, they'll take one or two and put it in a nice display case or put it away somehow, but not to have thousands of them all piled as if it's a waste product from some industrial use. And that, to me, was the most convincing argument that this was used as a dye, because there's no other purpose to use it. But as a dye, it would have a lot of workers who would bring them together and work very carefully and diligently to make sure that it comes out just perfectly. So that was the most convincing argument. Nevertheless, it became still a controversy. Why was it a controversy? Because of all the arguments that were used to show that the Techeiles were unacceptable. The Beis Halevi's taina that you need a Mesorah was still the strongest of all the tainas. Of course, we have no Mesorah. How could we go ahead and prove that it's Techeiles without having a Mesorah? Another argument that maybe it's wrong, says of course it doesn't hurt to make it. No, that's not so poshut, because to come out with a new thing which is wrong from a different aspect, as a Shkenasik, you can't make innovations in Klal Yisroel, which are done besophic, because any innovation that's not correct is like it is an innovation, something new. And once you begin with new things, so it's like Seifer said, when I get other things, Chodesh Osam in the Torah, you start with new things and you don't know where it could lead you. You've got to be very careful when it comes to new things. On the other hand, there are Makoros in Swarm, Shoinim, that say that you could discover the Techeiles on your own, and you don't have to have a Mesorah. One of the biggest problems with the present Techeiles was that there were certain groups of people who began using it right away, and it caused a shtickle problem because very often, you know that there are groups that other groups are very, careful about associating with these groups. So when you have two groups, one is always on guard not to do anything that should associate it with that group. So if that group, eats a certain kind of matzah, so somebody else will say, no, that matzah is no good, it's chometz gomer. And these things go on. You had a good example of that was when they made machine matzah. The pashtus, there's no reason in the world that machine matzah shouldn't be kosher except for the matzah's mitzvah, because it's not, it's a shtofik, and it's sodom l'kan, whether it's l'shma. That's like, some said it's good, some said it's not good. So some said whoever uses the machine matzahs using chometz gomer. Others said that whoever doesn't eat machine matzahs is eating chometz gomer. It so happens that someone once asked me, they read through a couple of books about Yerushalayim. I don't know if you remember, there was, what was it called? Yerushalayim Shalmala. I think 3 or 4 volumes, by a Yid named Gerlitz. It was a very, very popular thing, everybody read. Like all things, people, not as popular now as what it used to be about the big tzaddikim from Yerushalayim, the old Yishuv. The original group were Litvisha, the Talmidei Hagra, the Chassidim, there were Polish, there was Sfardim, a lot of Sfardim, Hungarians. What did they have in common, all these different groups? The only thing they had in common was that they all ate machine matzah. Just Chaim on the film, everybody. But today, more common to find people who, look about it as chometz gomer. So, grouping of people breeds controversy. And it's the controversy that hit the Techeiles more than anything else, because it's an identification symbol by many people. If you put it on, so it shows that you belong to one group or to the other group. So, many times people say, well, if it's acceptable, then why didn't this one accept it? Why didn't that one accept it? That's the way things go. It's a tremendous safeguard by Klal Yisroel, because it's not easy to innovate. That's one of the reasons why we could be pretty sure that the Messiahs that we have, the minhagim that we have, are, acceptable minhagim. Because if anything was wrong, there would be a tremendous outpouring of antagonism. People would go and fight it. So the issue is not settled yet. Some people they want to wear Techeiles in private, not in public, because by wearing it in public it comes out here identifying yourself according to others with certain groups. So that's why some of the oilam is noyeg or not noyeg, and I think that covers everything. So we could go to the next. What should one do halacha l'maaseh? Well, didn't I just say a minute ago that by doing something publicly, let me rephrase what I said. By doing something publicly, sometimes what you do is you make a statement, and somebody goes out and it does something that seems to be a declaration informing the world that this thing should be done or shouldn't be done.
Well, this is what the Gemara says that comes up every 7 years.
Yeah, that's right. These Murex don't, congregate on the sand. They don't reach the shore and climb up, except once in very many years. 70 is just a number found in the Gemara, and it means a lot of years. It could be 50 or 20 or 100, and that's the way it is by the. Now, see, I told you that it's to one's benefit not to advertise what he's doing with techelet in public. Why? Because by advertising, so then it becomes an issue, and then the techelet is not even the issue. The issue is the identification. Are you a member of this association? Because I see you wearing techelet, that shows that you belong to, So you got to be extremely careful. I didn't paskin anything right now. Just the question was not to paskin. The question was to inform. Why is the oilam not knowing? I answer the question. That's all. First, I commented on the fact that there's an assumption over here which makes it an unfair question. Number two, I commented on why people are knowing and why people are not knowing. And anything more than that is your own conclusion and not mine. Okay. Sometimes, especially some people, when they're, in the public life, they got to be extremely careful about doing anything that could be considered a new minhag or an innovation. On my corner in Williamsburg, it was the Satmar Rebbe's shul. I lived at Ross Street between Bedford and Lee, and on the corner of Ross and Bedford was the old Knapp mansion, which became the Satmar shul. Everybody would come there on Friday night, and then the Rebbe, who had a room upstairs, he would come downstairs. And one time, he walked downstairs, and everybody began singing, Shalom Aleichem, and the Rebbe didn't wear shtreim. Somebody remarked to the Rebbe that he wasn't wearing a shtreim. He gave a clap, and he said he wants to make an announcement. He said, I'm announcing that everybody should listen and hear that the reason I didn't wear shtreimel today is because I forgot to. A mistake. And I'm going to go. And right away they brought him the time. He said that there was a mole from the early Chassidish Rebbe's, Uri Strelitzky. That was the name, Uri. He came from a town called Strelis. And he was a very big tzaddik, but he was extremely poor. And he had a single talus that he wore for all the years, and the talus was worn out, but he didn't have money to buy a new one. And the talus wasn't covered with tefillin. And so, there was a spot in right with the talus went over the tefillin shel rosh, and the tefillin shel rosh wore a hole in the talus, so that it sometimes popped through the talus and it was visible. So right away, those who had a little money to go out and buy something, they ran out and they bought new talesim, and they made a hole in the top so that the tefillin should come out. After all, they have advocated that people should have the tefillin shel rosh could pop through the talus. Somebody told me that they said that one time Yisroel went out before Shabbos carrying a broom. So they asked him why he went out to carry the broom. So he said the broom was right blocking the door, and he wanted to put it out into the wall in front of the house. So he said, Why? Because if he would have left it there, so people would say, no, there's a meaning to cover Shabbos to have a broom right near the front door, just to show that you want to keep the house clean for Shabbos. Now he wants to make sure that nobody says like that. He said that soon afterwards there were many people who went to buy special brooms so that they could take it in before Shabbos and then they could carry it out just before. You got to be very careful when you make public statements. You got to be very careful. People could copy you and learn the wrong conclusions. Okay. Is there a techelet tzibura by taking out one Sefer Torah on Parshas Korach that falls out on Rosh Chodesh? Techelet tzibura. Why? Because you'll learn Parshas Korach, and then you'll turn the Sefer. I suppose that's what the Techeiles. Then you'll turn the Sefer for